I booked a $9,400 family trip for my fiancée's birthday, only to get a text. "We gave your kids spots to my sister's family. They're more fun." I replied, "Got it." That night, I canceled everything. When they arrived at the airport, the locks had changed, the rent had tripled, and their cards declined at the coffee shop. That was just the beginning. The text arrived at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday, while I was standing behind the front desk of my hotel, smiling at a couple checking in from Cincinnati who had absolutely no idea that my entire family had just declared war on me using one sentence and a smiley face emoji. "Hey, Alan. So we talked, and we gave your kids spots on the trip to Deb's family. They're more fun, lol. I want you to sit with every syllable of that. Not, there was a mix-up. Not, there weren't enough seats. My children, my 8-year-old daughter Lily, and my 10-year-old son Marcus, had been uninvited from a family vacation I paid $9,400 to arrange. Because someone held an internal audition for Best Family Vibes, and my children failed the callback. I read it 3 times. I looked up at the Cincinnati couple. I smiled. I said, "Welcome to the Meridian. We're so glad you're here." I handed them their key cards. I waited until the elevator closed. Then I typed back 2 words. "Got it." And I meant every single letter. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back, because you need the full picture, including the part where I accidentally went viral on TikTok via a 12-year-old, a fruit plate, and a hotel welcome note about Mexico. My name is Alan Beaumont. I'm 37, and I've lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for 9 years. I'm the general manager of the Meridian Charlotte, a 214-room boutique hotel in South End that does about $4.2 million in annual revenue and has held a 4.7-star rating for 3 consecutive years. I started as a front desk agent at a Hampton Inn in Greensboro, making $11.50 an hour, and clawed my way up shift by shift, property by property. I say all that not to brag. I say it because how I run my hotel tells you exactly how I run my life. I am a fixer, a systems thinker, someone who walks into problems the way a surgeon walks into an operating room. Calm, methodical, with specific tools and zero interest in drama. When something breaks, I identify the cause, address the root, implement a solution, and prevent recurrence. Turns out that skill set translates beautifully to family conflict. I'm engaged to Simone, 34, pediatric occupational therapist, the most patient woman alive. We've been together 4 years, engaged 14 months, getting married in October. I have Marcus, 10, and Lily, 8, from my previous marriage. Simone has Zoe, 9, the most emotionally intelligent child I have ever met. These 3 kids get along like they were assembled by a committee of people who genuinely wanted something to work. The Cancun trip was supposed to be a birthday celebration for Simone and a chance for our whole blended family to exhale together. $9,400. Every flight, 2 hotel rooms, a suite, airport transfers, a birthday dinner reservation, a sunset catamaran for the kids. I was happy to spend it. I thought it would make everyone happy. Now let me introduce the cast, because no story like this makes sense without them. My mother is Cynthia Beaumont, 64, recently retired from medical billing, and she is the specific type of woman who has never been wrong about anything in her life and has the receipts to prove it. Physical receipts in a filing system. She once produced a receipt from 1994 during an argument about a blender. She loves me deeply and treats my home like a timeshare she has majority ownership in. My sister is Deborah, Deb, 33, charming, funny, and constitutionally incapable of paying a bill on time without someone covering the difference. She married Craig, 38, who works in insurance and has the energy of a golden retriever, who has been mildly sedated. Together, they have Tyler, 12, what adults call spirited, and children call that kid, and Bree, 7, who is sweet and has nothing to do with any of this. For the past 22 months, Deb and Craig and their kids had been living in the rental property I own, 2 blocks from my house. A 3-bedroom that rented on the open market for $1,850 a month. When Deb called me crying because Craig's hours were cut and they couldn't make rent, I said yes. I charged them $900 a month, $900. A discount of $950 every single month for 22 consecutive months. You can do the math. I'll wait. I did this because she's my sister. Because Tyler and Bree needed stability. Because my mother asked me to. And because I kept telling myself it was temporary. Nobody tells you that if you always say yes. People stop seeing it as generosity. They start seeing it as the baseline, the minimum you're owed, the floor, not the ceiling. The first 6 months were fine. Deb brought food, sometimes. Craig fixed my fence. There was a version of this that could have worked. By month 7, the rent was 3 days late, then a week late. By month 12, it was reliably 2 weeks late. By month 15, Deb mentioned at a family dinner that she was thinking of doing something with the backyard. Planting a garden, adding raised beds. When I said gently that I'd like to discuss any changes to the property first, she looked at me like I'd said something offensive. It's our home, Alan. I did not point out whose name was on the deed. By month 18, I had run the math. Below market rent over 18 months. $17,100. $17,100. And I had made peace with that number. I was prepared to carry it another 6 months because family, because her kids, because I genuinely wanted them to get stable. What I was not prepared for was how entitlement compounds, how each accommodation becomes a precedent, how each yes slowly erases the possibility of no from anyone's imagination. Smaller things accumulated. Craig used my hotel parking spot for 4 hours without mentioning it until I got a complaint from the valet. Deb told my kids to their faces that their bedrooms were kind of sad. My mother suggested at a family dinner that Deb's children were easier than mine. The kind of thing you're not supposed to say out loud, and certainly not supposed to say twice. I absorbed all of it. I kept my face neutral. I kept telling myself the situation was temporary, that Deb was stressed, that families go through rough patches. Nobody tells you that some rough patches are manufactured, that some people are not in a rough patch at all. They have simply found a smooth surface and decided to lie down on it indefinitely. The text from Deb came 6 days before the trip. Hey, Alan, so we talked and we gave your kids spots on the trip to Deb's family. They're more fun, lol. The trip had 8 people booked. Me, Simone, Marcus, Lily, Zoe, Deb, Craig, my mother. Deb was informing me that the seats belonging to my children had been reallocated to her sister-in-law's family, people I had never met. Because Deb had apparently convened some enjoyment tribunal and my kids had been found lacking. My daughter Lily, who had a handwritten list of things she wanted to do in Cancun, who had asked me 3 separate times whether the resort had a water slide, my son Marcus, who had spent 2 weeks learning 3 phrases in Spanish specifically for this trip and practiced them on me every single morning at breakfast. These 2 children had been voted off the island by their own aunt. I smiled at the Cincinnati couple. I handed them their key cards. I typed back, "Got it." Something shifted inside me. Very quiet. Not anger. Anger is hot and loud, and I don't run hot. More like a click. Like a very large system that had been running on manual override, suddenly flipping to automatic. Like the hotel management part of my brain had just been handed a new property to manage. The property was called This Family Situation. I had a plan by 4 p.m. I did 4 things that evening. Calmly, sequentially, no music. Just the hum of my laptop fan. At 6:14 p.m., I opened the booking platform and canceled all 8 reservations. Every flight, both rooms, the suite, every transfer. I recovered 62% of the cost. 38% was gone. I decided 38% was the price of a lesson. At 6:51 p.m., I called my locksmith, Daniel, who owed me a favor from a plumbing situation, and confirmed a 7 a.m. appointment to rekey the rental property. At 7:22 p.m., I drafted a new rental agreement at current market rate, $2,800 a month per a February appraisal. I printed it, signed my half, left Deb's signature line blank. At 9:03 p.m., I called the bank that held the joint emergency card I'd added Deb to 4 months ago during a car repair crisis. I removed her as an authorized user. I didn't text anyone. Didn't call my mother. Didn't write a speech. I closed my laptop, went to bed, and slept well, which tells you something about either my character or my emotional detachment. And I've never fully sorted out which. The following Tuesday at 9:17 a.m., Deb, Craig, and my mother arrived at Charlotte Douglas International Airport for a flight that no longer existed anywhere on any airline's system on Earth. I know the exact time because Craig texted me from the check-in counter. "Hey man, so there's something weird happening with the tickets?" I replied, "Yeah, I'd look into that." Okay. So here's the part of the story where I need you to understand something about me. I am a hotel general manager. I have spent 15 years in hospitality. I know at a granular level how resorts work, how booking systems function, how the infrastructure of a family vacation is essentially a logistical network, and what happens when you pull the right thread. What I did next was not revenge. I want to be clear. It was more like a redirect, a full-service, premium-tier redirect, thoughtfully executed, delivered at a level I believe was exactly proportional to the situation, and which I would absolutely do again with zero hesitation. I rebooked the trip. 6 people. Me, Simone, Marcus, Lily, Zoe, and Simone's mother, Beverly, 61, who hadn't had a vacation since 2019. I upgraded the suite. I added a beachfront private cabana for 2 days. I booked the birthday dinner at the Better Restaurant. I added a sunset catamaran for the kids. I spent the refund and added about 800 more. It was beautiful. Then I used my professional contacts. Here is something most people don't know about hotel management. We talk to each other. The hospitality industry in any major city is a very small world. I have a colleague named Patricia who runs the largest full-service resort hotel in Charlotte. We've been in the same regional hospitality association for 6 years, and once co-presented at a conference in Atlanta. I called Patricia. I explained my situation in the most professional, least emotional terms available. I told her 3 adults would be arriving at Charlotte Douglas expecting to fly to Cancun, only to discover their reservations had been canceled. I thought it would be a shame if they ended up at a bad property. Patricia laughed for approximately 45 seconds before composing herself enough to confirm she had rooms. I booked 1 single king for my mother, 1 single king for Deb and Craig. The 2 bedrooms were sold out, which may or may not have been true. I arranged a fruit plate and a handwritten welcome note for each room. The note, which I composed myself and am not ashamed of, read, "Dear guest, welcome to your stay. We hope you enjoy your time with us. If you have any questions about the area, our concierge team is happy to help you explore Charlotte, which is a lovely city with many wonderful things to do that are not technically a beachfront resort in Mexico. Best wishes, the management." I did not sign it. I genuinely did not think it would become the thing that went viral. My mother arrived, was processed by front desk agent Kylie, who had been briefed by Patricia, who had been briefed by me, and who kept a perfectly straight face throughout, and went to her room. She found the fruit plate. She found the note. She called me 7 minutes later. "Alan, there is a note in this hotel room. I know. It says, which is a lovely city with many wonderful things to do that are not technically a beachfront resort in Mexico. I'm aware." Long pause. "Did you write this note?" "I manage hospitality properties, Mom. I have a sense of the industry." She hung up. Meanwhile, Deb had been on the phone with the airline for 40 minutes, which anyone who has ever tried to resolve a booking issue by calling an airline will recognize as a journey into a specific kind of madness. Craig's texts to me during this period, reproduced in full for your reference. "Hey, so the tickets aren't pulling up. Like none of them. Did something happen? Alan bro. The lady said the reservation was canceled. Did you cancel it? Alan, this isn't funny, man. Deb is really upset. My mom is. Calling me, actually, a lot of people are calling me." I sent back a single emoji. Thumb up. Now, the part I genuinely did not plan for. Tyler, 12 years old, spirited, the one who started all of this, had been following the entire situation on the family group chat because nobody had thought to mute him. Tyler did something nobody anticipated. He screenshotted every single message in the group chat going back 14 days, including Deb's original text about my kids being less fun, and sent the entire compilation to his school friend Jalen. Jalen told his mother. Jalen's mother posted it in the Charlotte area Facebook parenting group. The caption, "This is not my family, but I need someone to explain why a man is being dragged on group chat for not accepting that his children were uninvited from a trip he paid for because they aren't fun enough." Also, he apparently left a note in a hotel room about Mexico. I need details. By 4 p.m., 847 comments. By 6 p.m., someone had made a TikTok. It was not me. The TikTok was titled, "Hotel Manager Checks His Own Family into His Rival's Hotel After They Tried to Cancel His Kids from a Vacation." By the following morning, 2.3 million views. Kylie, the front desk agent, had been identified by full name in the comments, which she later told Patricia she was honestly fine with. It's good exposure. My mother, who does not have TikTok, learned about it from her church friend Annette, who called at 9:47 p.m. specifically to read the top 10 comments aloud over the phone. My mother then called me. I let it go to voicemail, 4 minutes and 12 seconds. I have not listened to all of it. The part I caught included the phrase, "You did not need to bring the hotel into it," which I found philosophically interesting, given the circumstances. Craig found the TikTok around the same time. His brother Derek texted me, "Bro, I cannot stop laughing. I'm sorry, this is so funny," followed by, "Also, apparently Craig watched it 3 times and said, 'I think we really messed up,' and then ate the whole fruit plate." I did not plan for Derek to become my biggest family ally. But here we are. The fallout expanded in rings. By Wednesday morning, my mother had called 6 extended family members. 3 took my side immediately. 2 were confused about basic facts. 1, my Aunt Roberta in Lexington, Kentucky, called me from what sounded like a gas station to say she had seen the whole TikTok and that she was proud of me for handling it with class. She added, "That note about Mexico was very classy, Alan." I said thank you. The family group chat, originally named Cancun 2025, had been renamed I don't know by whom. What is happening? Selected messages. My cousin Denise. "Okay, I just saw the TikTok. And Alan, I need you to know that I am literally on the floor." My uncle Carl. "Can someone explain what happened? Did Alan go to Mexico or not? Is Cynthia okay?" My mother, 11:14 p.m. "I will be addressing this at the appropriate time. Please do not speculate." Craig, apparently on Deb's phone because his battery died. "This is Craig. Does anyone know if the hotel charges for the minibar if you don't touch it?" Simone found out from Zoe, who found the TikTok through school friends and brought the phone to the kitchen, saying, "Mom, Alan went viral." Simone called me, was quiet for a moment, then said, "You booked your mother into a hotel in Charlotte and left her a note about Mexico." I said yes. She said, "I love you so much." Marcus read the TikTok at breakfast the next morning and looked up at me. "Dad, that's the most dad thing you've ever done." I'm choosing to take that as a compliment. By Wednesday evening, my phone had 47 texts, 19 missed calls, 2 voicemails from my mother, 1 voicemail from Craig that was mostly TV noise, and a Facebook message from Deb's sister-in-law, the one whose family had been given my kids' spots, a person I had never met, explaining that she was not involved in any of this and had already booked separately. I replied, "Understood. No issue with you." We never spoke again, which I believe means we're fine. Deb showed up at my house Wednesday afternoon. I had anticipated this, so I was home, calm, coffee made. She knocked. I opened the door. She said, "Alan, can we talk?" I said yes and let her in. She started with, "I didn't know you were going to cancel the whole trip." I said, "I know." She moved to, "You could have talked to me first." I said, "You sent a text saying my children were less fun." She said, "It was a misunderstanding." I said very gently, "Deb, you used the word lol." Silence. She tried, "Mom is really upset." And I said, "About which part?" She had no answer. I showed her the new rental agreement. She looked at it for a long time. $2,800. I said, "Market rate." She said, "We can't afford that." I said, "I know. I'd like to help you figure out a path forward. But the arrangement we had isn't working anymore. She left without the agreement. She came back for it 20 minutes later, which I took as a meaningful sign. The ally I did not expect was Beverly, Simone's mother. 61, retired teacher, the kind of woman who doesn't say much, but when she says something, it lands like a brick through a window. Precise, unavoidable, permanent. She called Thursday morning before my first coffee and said, with no preamble, "Those are her babies, and those are your children." Somebody looked at two little children who were excited about a vacation and decided they weren't worth the bother. I taught school for 31 years. Children always know exactly how they're valued. Always. I didn't speak. "You didn't cancel that trip for yourself," Beverly continued. "You canceled it because some lessons only land when they land, and yours didn't make anyone bleed. So don't let anybody make you feel small for it." Then she said, "Now tell me about this note in the hotel room, because I want to hear it in your words." I told her. She laughed so long I had to wait her out. "Which is a lovely city with many wonderful things to do that are not technically a beachfront resort in Mexico," she repeated, savoring each word like a fine meal. "Alan, you are going to be an excellent member of this family." 2 weeks after the airport incident, I got a text from Tyler, 12 years old, the spirited one. The one who had accidentally launched everything into orbit by screenshotting the group chat and sending it to Jalen. "Hey, Uncle Alan. I'm sorry about what my mom said about your kids. It wasn't fair. Also, Lily is definitely more fun than me. And that's just facts. I read it 4 times. I sat with it about 10 minutes. Then I called him. He picked up after 2 rings and sounded like he'd been rehearsing for days, because he probably had. He said he'd heard his parents talking and didn't think it was right. He said he knew Marcus had been learning Spanish and thought that was actually really cool. I told him it was a brave thing to say. He said, "I know." But I still wanted to say it, 12 years old. I would have stewed for 3 weeks and sent an email. Deb called me the following day. Quieter, slower. She said she knew the text was a really bad text and hadn't thought about how it would land with the kids. I asked if she'd thought about how it would land with me. She said, "Honestly, I didn't think you'd mind that much." That sentence. Not mean, it wasn't meant to be mean. Just honest. She genuinely hadn't thought I'd mind. Because for 22 months, I had taught her, by total consistency, that I absorbed things, that there would be no consequence. The text wasn't cruelty, it was the logical endpoint of a pattern I had built myself. One accommodation at a time. That was the thing I had to sit with. Not entirely her fault. Partially mine. Constructed together, brick by brick. Are we a perfect family now? No. We are not. We are a family that had a situation, survived it, talked about it in more detail than anyone wanted, and came out the other side with a clearer understanding of what we owe each other. Which is not nothing. Deb and Craig signed a revised rental agreement at $1,950 a month. More than $900, less than market rate, landing at a number we negotiated for 1 hour at my kitchen table. It felt like 2 people who care about each other doing the uncomfortable math of what care actually costs. My mother and I had the overdue conversation. She didn't respond well initially when I told her that some of her comments had hurt my kids. She came back around in her own time. Cynthia Beaumont doesn't apologize directly. She apologizes through casseroles. She showed up a week later with a pan of baked ziti, wouldn't make eye contact, and said, "I've been thinking about what you said about the children. I'll do better." I took it. The trip happened the last week of July. 6 of us. Me, Simone, Marcus, Lily, Zoe, and Beverly, who wore the same enormous sun hat for 6 consecutive days and refused to remove it even at dinner, and became something of a resort landmark. The kids found the water slide. Marcus deployed all 3 Spanish phrases with full confidence. Understood twice, graciously smiled at on the 3rd. Lily cataloged every fish she spotted from the catamaran and read the list back to me at bedtime with the seriousness of a scientist presenting data. Simone's birthday dinner was beachfront. Candles, everything right. At one point, she looked across the table at me while the kids argued about something completely inconsequential. And she said, "This is exactly what I wanted. I don't have a better ending than that." That's the ending. Beverly gave a toast. To the people at this table, you chose each other. Keep choosing each other. We raised our glasses, including Zoe, whose glass contained sparkling water and a tiny paper umbrella she'd been carrying around all evening because she thought it was funny. The TikTok, last I checked, was at 4.1 million views. Kylie, the front desk agent, turned down a competing job offer because she likes working for Patricia. Patricia sent me a gift card to a nice restaurant and a note that said, "For the dinner you owe me." Also, that note about Mexico was perfect. I framed it. It's in my office, right next to the Q3 occupancy chart. The morning after we got back, I was standing behind the front desk of the Meridian when a family checked in. 2 parents, 2 kids, all of them sunburned and happy, and dragging an enormous suitcase. The little girl looked up at the lobby ceiling with her mouth open like she was seeing something extraordinary. The father caught me smiling and said, "Sorry, first time in a hotel like this." "She's a little overwhelmed," I said. "She's in exactly the right place. I am 37 years old. I manage a hotel. I love my children. I'm marrying the right woman." I sent a note to a hotel room in Charlotte that ended up on TikTok. I would do every single bit of it again. Got it.